Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is the 2022 World Championships in Australia. 267 kilometers, about 165 miles. Now they're going to go out along the coast and then they're going to go up a climb, drop down the steep climb, and then they got a bunch of circuits, 205 miles worth of circuits of a 17-kilometer circuit, twists, turns, one good climb on the circuit, just over a K long with 15% sections in it. The women's race, Van Vleuten, when she won the women's race, she described this climb as being something close to the Kahlberg that, of course, they have at Amstel Gold Classic race every year, and they've had it at the World Championships on that climb too. So it's a hard, steep climb, but like I said, just over a kilometer long. Could be it's not difficult enough, but you got to remember it's really technical course when we get on this 17 kilometers, lots of lefts, lots of rights. So the course is going to string out the peloton, of course. And if you remember right from last year's 2021 Belgium World Championships, it was Team France that really decided how the race was going to be played. Remember last year before the Belgium World Championships, everybody had talked about how it was set up for sprinters. And then, of course, the French team had lit the race up with 178 kilometers to go. We saw Remco Evenepoel go in that move, and not only did we see the Belgian rider in that move, but he was aggressive, pulling on the front, driving it like crazy, throwing nails and bullets into the legs until finally he blew up. Belgium fell apart just amazingly the way they fell apart because they had Wout van Aert, Remco Evenepoel, the strongest Belgium team in the world, road championships probably ever last year. And now when we look at their team this year, they come in here again with Remco Evenepoel and Wout van Aert. So the question is, can these two get along for this World Championships? Remember, Remco Evenepoel won LBL, won, of course, Classica San Sebastian, and let's not forget Tour of Spain, because that was recent and it's a grand tour, so we all remember it. But Wout van Aert hasn't been that shabby either, right? We all remember the Tour de France and all his multiple stage wins at the Tour de France, his cobblestone crash that he had on stage 5, and then going back for his teammate Jonas Vingegaard when he got in trouble and towed him all the way back up to Tadej Pogacar's attacking group to within 13 seconds there of Tadej Pogacar. So saved the Tour de France for Jumbo-Visma on stage 5 and then gave up the jersey on stage 6. But, of course, he won stage 4 and put the yellow jersey on, then won some more stages. So we know Team Belgium have a stacked roster when we look at Wout van Aert and Remco Evenepoel. Now, we start looking at the French team. We're talking Julien Alaphilippe because he's a two-time road world champion, and he's the back-to-back last 2 years road champion because he's the one that put on that spectacular show on last year's Belgium Road World Championship course. So we know with those two teams, France and Belgium, we got the two teams that you absolutely have to focus on here in 2022 at the Road World Championships in Australia. Once the racing starts, there's attacks right from the gun, and it's 11 riders going up the road. Now, inside this group of 11, though, there's no Team France and there's no Belgium team in there, so they're missing a lot of power. When you look at the 11 guys up there, there's just not a big stack of power up there, so you know this group is not going to go all the way to the finish, and it doesn't take till we're 230 kilometers to go when we start seeing France's plan, 2001A plan, put into effect again. Now we see at the front, Pavel Sivakov throwing in attack with 230 kilometers to go, and he's going to split the peloton up and cause of what I'm going to say about 30 riders up the road. While Van Aert's not caught napping, and he's got some Belgium teammates up there, and Tadej Pogacar's in this move. Keep in mind, Tadej Pogacar has a teammate up the road in that original group of 11 too. Now that group will work to about 200 kilometers to go, kind of, sort of. Well, they work well enough together that they still got a gap on the big peloton behind. But then at 200 kilometers to go, that's when we start seeing some more attacks by the Frenchmen. And it's again Sivakov that's throwing in attack. This time he's got Peter Siri from Belgium for company. Ben O'Connor and Plapp are there for Australia. And Battistella from the Italian national team, he's in there too. 5 riders going up the road. Only problem is, guess what? Peter Siri's Belgian rider, and his name's not Wout van Aert or Remco Evenepoel, so you know he's not going to work. He's sitting on Battistella, the Italian national rider. He's sitting on. That means you got 3 riders on the front pulling. France is up there going deep with Pavel Sivakov. And then, of course, the two Australian riders, Ben O'Connor went fourth at the Tour de France 2 years ago, and Plapp, who's been showing strongly throughout the European races. Those three are going to ride the front. Now behind, we're going to see it's Tadej Pogačar, and he's doing a no-no right here because he's on the front trying to pull this group back. This you just can't do. Remember, 200 kilometers still to go, and you can't get on the front if you're Tadej Pogačar, because when you get up there, you're just going to get attacked by the next move. So wisely, the Slovenian rider, he shuts it down, and he brings that group that didn't make that front group of 5 all the way back to the peloton. Now, 175 kilometers ago, we're going to see the thumbs up from Julian Alaphilippe. But Alaphilippe, this is not really the same scenario. Remember, when we look at 2021, last year's Belgian Road Championships, when it was Remco having to pull up there, the A-star rider for Wout van Aert, that should have been this main lieutenant there, Wout van Aert, he was pulling like crazy in that front group, and that means they were blowing some bullets. But now, Julian Alaphilippe, when you look at this group, this is not 2021, because up front, Peter Siri's sitting on. Wout van Aert's back in the peloton now, so you know he's sitting on, and guess who's pulling on the front in that group of 5? That's right, it's Pavel Sivakov up there pulling, and they only have one Frenchman. Belgium has one French rider too. So unless the Belgian rider Peter Siri flats, right now Belgium is looking pretty because they're not working up front, they're not working in the back. Wout van Aert sitting on, Remco having the pull sitting on. So again, when we're talking Julian Alaphilippe, I don't think he should be giving thumbs up at this point in time. With 175 kilometers to go, you got 11 riders in the front. You don't got a French rider up there. You got one French rider in the group of 5, but he's pulling like crazy, and you've already been blowing bullets left and right up the climb. At this point in time, 230 kilometers ago, when you guys started those attacks going up the first big climb here in Australia, once you went over the top, you had Wout van Aert there sitting on, and he wasn't pulling Remco having to pull moves from 2021. You just got to abort, go back to the field and try again, or start attacking left and right and get rid of Peter Siri. But you can't just have Peter Siri sitting on because you got Belgium sitting on all over the place. The only teams you got working on the front at this point in time, of course, you got Team Germany on the front, and then, of course, you have Colombia riding on the front full gas, but it's not Team Belgium on the front, so this is not 2021. Belgium team has wised up. They have listened to everything, all the critics about last year's 2021 tactics that they employed throughout all 2021. I don't mean just the Road World Championships. European Road Championships were that way. The Olympics last year were that way. And, of course, the Road World Championships were that way. So you got to sit up. You got to reshuffle because they're all sitting on. So they don't. They still keep pulling. And eventually that group of 5 will come back up to that group 11 at 150 kilometers to go in the race. And that gap has gone up to 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Behind, when we look at the peloton, it's the Spanish team and the Dutchies on the front pulling. And the Spanish team, they're pulling 100% with everything they got. Dutchies rotating through, doing their work because they missed that front move up there too. They're not happy with this solution. So again, Belgium's getting a free ride with Spain and Dutch up there pulling 100%. With 125 kilometers to go, as I told you, that front group came together, made 16 riders up front. Now you see Peter Siri, he starts riding through from Belgium. And this is because this is ideal. When you look back there, they haven't had to work all day. Remember, we're at 125 kilometers to go inside of a 267 kilometer race. Belgium hasn't had to work at all. You look at last year's Road World Championships, 178 kilometers, they're working like crazy with Remco having to pull. I mean, they're complete polar opposites Road World Championships here on the tactics Belgium are employing from last year's race. Now behind in the peloton with 110 kilometers to go, we're going to see a crash from Jake Stewart. He goes down. He's on the right side there of the curb. They're curb to curb, the peloton going up the climb. There's the Australian flag flying out there in the road, and it's Stewart that catches it with his right handlebars. That pulls down the Great Britain rider. He goes down. He will get back up and chase back on. Now, behind, from about 100 kilometers to 75 kilometers to go, we see that time gap that was up there around 8 minutes, and now the peloton starts going really fast as the time gap has dropped down to just about 2 minutes at 75 kilometers to go here in the race. So we know things are going to get heated up and action here because it's already started throughout the whole beginning of this race all the way to this point with 75 kilometers to go. Now we start seeing the first big attacks there. It's about just under 75 kilometers to go from the front breakaway riders, and we start seeing everybody blow up. The big major casualty coming out of that big group up front, though, is going to be Luke Plapp from the Australian team coming out the back. We look up front. It's Ben O'Connor up there. He's still representing Australia. French riders are up there. We still got the Belgian rider, Peter Siri, holding on. Look at the size of that group. Only about 6 guys skies up there as the whole group is blowing up on this climb, and it'll come back together later. But again, as long as Peter Siri stays up there, Belgium doesn't have to do anything from behind. Now we look back at the peloton with 73 kilometers to go. We're going to see another crash from the German rider Zimmerman. Now he goes down. You see the peloton stringing fast on the left side of the road, and you'll see him shoot out of the peloton. He'll slide all the way across the road, bounce off the curb. We'll see him get back up, but that's going to be the end here at the Road World Championships for Zimmerman, giving Germany any chance to win with him. Now we go back up front. Now all of a sudden the peloton's starting to blow up. We see attacks again by the French team. They got riders in that front group, but now we look back here in the peloton. They're starting their plan B right here, tacking in the back. They're throwing in big-time attacks, and it's going to split a massive-sized group off the front here when we see, but Remco Evenepoel's in there, and he's got at least 2 teammates with him. Behind in the peloton, we look at this group. Guess who's there? Julian Alaphilippe, the big-time, 2-time back-to-back Road World Champion. He's in there. Wout van Aert's in the peloton still, but he's got teammates wrapped around him. Of course, Julian Alaphilippe does too. And then we see Tadej Pogacar. But up front, when we go to this big selection up front from the French national teams up there throwing in massive attacks, Remco Evenepoel is represented up there. They get up to the top of the climb there. Remco Evenepoel starts throwing in some big attacks. I don't like this. We're still a little bit too far out for Remco Evenepoel to be throwing in big digs. All of a sudden, we see the counter move from the French national teams. They're throwing in left side, right side. Remco Evenepoel's starting to cover. Then eventually, Remco Evenepoel wises up a little bit. This is when he starts to throw his teammates on the front. Once he throws his teammates on the front, start working. The French national guys, they start jumping on the front too, and this is a no-no. At no point in time when I'm sitting on the couch do I remember anything where they should be working with the Belgium national team right now while Remco Evenepoel's getting a free ride. Remember what made last year's 2021 work out so well for Julian Alaphilippe is because Remco Evenepoel was doing 98% of the pulling in that group with 178 kilometers to go. And right now, Remco Evenepoel's like, I don't need to attack. I'm going to put my teammate on the front. So he puts Peter Siri, who's been in the break for a long time, but had gotten a free ride that whole time as Pavel Sivakov from the French national team, along with Plapp and Ben O'Connor, had pulled Peter Siri the whole time. Now Remco Evenepoel wises up, man. He's got a teammate with him, Quentin Hermans. So he's got Quentin Hermans right next to him, and he's got Peter Siri up there riding on the front. Now we'll see the Swiss national team get on the front. Simon Pelot, who was in that original group from the start of the breakaway in that original group of 11, riding for the Swiss national team. He's going to go up there and start riding too. Don't like this tactic at all. I know he wants to ride for Mario Schmid back there, who's won some good races throughout his career, but he's not a big-time rider when we're talking about Remco Evenepoel in this front group, and you know the Belgium team will ride anyways. But Simon Pelot is going to do the work, and he's my old teammate, so a little tear drops down the cheek here for Simon Pelot because you're kind of a knucklehead right here. I hope it was the director back there, your teammate Schmidt, that told you to do it, Simon, because you shouldn't be pulling with the Belgium team, but instead he's up there pulling really hard, and he'll pull off the front because he's did a fabulous amount of work here at today's Road World Championships in Australia. Peter Siri, the next rider, he'd been working on the front, and he'd been in the break for a long time, but not quite as long as Simon Pelot. Peter Siri will come out, and that means it's time for Remco Evenepoel to start going to work. Now with 38 kilometers to go, it's Alexei Lusenko who's really starting in the big attacks where he's getting the gap. Remco Evenepoel knows he has to close it because he started all these shenanigans. But this is about the right time because we're 38 kilometers to go. Remco Evenepoel closes it, and then, of course, a couple more attacks to go, and then we're going to see the big one from Remco Evenepoel. He throws in a massive attack, and guess what? It's Alexei Lusenko who's able to cover the move. Now he suffers hard to bridge across. We see the gap there in the picture, and everybody back there is trying to close the Remco Evenepoel, but they can't. It's just Alexei Lusenko who's the only rider to catch the tail end of Remco Evenepoel. Now, the big mistake here at the Road World Championships has to be when I'm sitting on the couch watching Alexei Lusenko going pull for pull with Remco Evenepoel with under 35 kilometers to go. Behind, we saw a bunch of different attacks. 4 guys ended up finally emerging out of what was left of the breakaway. They were trying to catch the 2 up front. These 4 guys, we know why you're sitting on the couch. If Remco Evenepoel has his Vuelta form, his Classica San Sebastian form, his LBL form, there's no way you're going to see the Belgian rider get caught with 25 kilometers to go. The 4 riders that are still trying hard, it's Pascal Ankhorn from the Netherlands, Matthias Jensen from Denmark, Rhoda from Italy, and Mario Schmidt from Swiss. Now, with those guys not being able to gain any time on Remco Evenepoel, we got 25 kilometers to go, and the climb starts to go back up, and Remco Evenepoel, he's had enough. He's ready to start going solo. He throws in acceleration on the climb here. Not really a full attack. He's just accelerating on the pedal. And we see as Alexei Lysenko just can no longer hold the wheel, and he starts opening up the gap. This is giving free rein now to Remco Evenepoel to start going crazy. We start looking at the form of Remco Evenepoel. He looks beautiful. He's not hurting at all. We back the film up, and we see about 20 seconds back there, Alexei Lysenko, he's suffering with every pedal stroke. The four chasers from behind, they're trying hard, but they're still not bringing back any time on Remco Evenepoel as he just keeps increasing his gap. We go back to the peloton. Again, there was attacks all over the place, but it's hard to know because the cameras are floating all over. Guys, you got to go back and watch from kilometer zero, 267 kilometers if you really want to understand everything that went along here at today's Australian Road World Championships. Up front, there we go. We look at the picture. He's got his car right next to him. Remco Evenepoel, you know his director's giving him time gaps saying, Remco, you've got this thing won. Just hold it up right and stay on the pedals hard. We look back. It's Alexei Lysenko. He's looking all the way back because he knows it's coming. As he starts to climb, it's the last climb here at the Road World Championships, and he's already looking back because he's losing it. His legs are blowing apart. The four riders from behind who had dropped now, Pascal Ancorn just can't hold the pace. Three riders now will accelerate, and at 4 kilometers to go, they're going to catch Alexei Lysenko. Alexei Lysenko, he's sitting on. He's trying to get any kind of recovery left, but he's only got 4 kilometers to recover, and that's not much time when you're talking about 263 kilometers have already passed. We go back to the peloton with 2 kilometers to go. We see Wout van Aert and Bettiol from the Italian national team, but I can't tell you where they're at. We're not getting the time gaps. I can't see. You just know they got to be close to somebody. We fast forward back up front. It's Remco Evenepoel, and he's coming into the final straight here. He knows he's going to celebrate his Road World Championships here in Australia. He starts to celebrate. You see him do the little shush to all the critics who said, couldn't win a Grand Tour. He did. Couldn't win big-time races. He won LBL. He won Classica San Sebastian. And he's going to roll across the line here at the Australian Road World Championships as the 2022 Road World Champion, wearing the rainbow bands across the chest throughout all of next year's season so that he could just remind everyone who didn't believe he could win a Grand Tour. So after that shush, you see the hands coming to the face. He can't believe it. He rolls across the line for Team Belgium, taking a magnificent big-time Road World victory here at 2022 in Australia. Now, I told you guys last year, I thought he should have been the 2021 Road World Champion in Belgium if it just wasn't for those ridiculous tactics. Today, they played it beautiful. Guys, they never had to ride the front at any point in time throughout today's 267 kilometers except for when he's going solo. Now, I disagreed with a little bit of his early attacks. Not knucklehead, just wouldn't have quite done it myself. But then he put his teammates on the front. You see Peter Siri that was riding 100%. When we see his Quinten Hermans that was covering all the attacks back there so they couldn't get up to the Belgian rider who's going solo, we know their tactics were beautiful throughout this racing here in Australia. Now, behind what was happening? Well, guess what? As I said, Lysenko got caught. He was sitting on the back. They played cat and mouse coming into the finish. And then we see Ancorn just around 1 kilometer to go. He's catching that group of 4 up front, throws in attack, and for some reason, Pascal Ancorn, he sits up. They come back together. They play some more cat and mouse. And then when we look further back, it's the Slovenian back there, Tratnik, that catches these guys with about 400 meters to go, throws in his own attack. But guess what? It's still not over because the peloton is coming fast. At 50 meters to go, they'll bring back the Slovenian Tratnik, not Tadej Pogačar. He won't factor in today's race here at the Road World Championships. Tratnik's getting caught 50 meters to go. And then we're going to see Christophe Laporte hold off Wout van Aert, who ends up getting 4th on the stage. Michael Matthews, the Australian team, he comes through for 3rd on the stage. Christophe Laporte 2nd to make a fantastic podium picture up here with Remco Evenepoel 1st, Christophe Laporte 2nd, and, of course, the Australian rider Michael Matthews somehow finds a way to get in here and get a medal at the Road World Championships in Australia. Now, I'm going to give you one other rider to pay attention to in the picture when we line it all up. Peter Sagan is in there for 7th on today's Road World Championships in Australia. Guys, the Slovakian, he is not done. He has had the worst 3 years since COVID started. It's unbelievable. But every time you see Peter Sagan, you better know he's a player if he's had any kind of luck throughout the last 2 months, because he was sick. Remember, up in the Canada races, he didn't finish those. Comes here and gets a top 10. I'm hoping, crossing all my fingers and toes, that we see some battles again with Peter Sagan at his best at next year's classic seasons, all the way into the Tour de France against Wout van Aert. And Remco Evenepoel, if you didn't believe me before the Vuelta started that he could win a Grand Tour, and you didn't believe me afterwards that he was class and could do something at this year's Tour de France, because remember, after he won Spain, he said everybody, of course, he wants to win the Tour de France, and made my day when he did it. Now he's road world champion. So when we go into the Tour de France in July next year, you got to know Tadej Pogacar, Remco Evenepoel, Jonas Vingegaard, Primož Roglič are all the big-time favorites, but you better add Remco Evenepoel in there, because I was disappointed throughout all the material that I had read before this Road World Championships, where really nobody mentioned Remco Evenepoel as being the big-time favorite to win the Road World Championships here in Australia, when he absolutely had to be, and he silenced everybody coming across the line in fantastic solo style. Congratulations, Belgium. It was a fantastic day of watching. Again, guys, 267 kilometers, and you got to watch it all. So turn this off. Go watch the bike race. Go watch some beautiful tactics from Belgium. The French team, I wasn't really happy with their tactics. They tried to employ the same thing that they did last year, of course, but it just wasn't working because Belgium wasn't biting for it, and instead Belgium was getting a free ride. So France, I believe, should have sat up and just reshuffled all the cards instead of pulling Belgium around all day long. Instead, they didn't. They did get a silver, though, with Christophe Laporte, so they come out with some pride still on the line. But in all honesty, I don't know if they should have got the silver. Remember, if that group there with Alexei Lusenko had pulled just a little bit further, they weren't even in that group chasing Remco Evenepoel, so they were talking about 6th, 7th on the stage if Christophe Laporte still wins the sprint finish there. So, great Road World Championships. Guys, go watch the whole thing. Like and enjoy the Butterfly Effect, and I'll see you guys soon.